Hello nerds and welcome to Into the Wild, your favourite wildlife and conservation podcast where we look at all things, well, wildlife and conservation.
This is a podcast of curiosity where we know we don't have all the answers.
Oh, that's my co-host Nadia, by the way.
Hi. But it doesn't really matter because we're here to learn and crucially listen to those who are affected by and closest to the issues that we as conservationists tend to pick over from our comfy living rooms.
So strap yourselves in, open up your luggles, grab a brew and join us as we geek out over nature, share our love for wildlife, rarely take ourselves seriously, all whilst learning. Oh, and we sometimes swear.
Couldn't be further from my situation.
The day I've had, mate, I'm cracking open a red stripe.
Babe, same day, but mine's a lemsip.
Oh, I'm so glad that's not my day.
Is it hot?
Is it hot?
Really?
Are you trying to mock me?
No, I'm just establishing the facts, which is, going to lay out the rest of our conversation.
It's been 29 degrees Celsius in London today.
Can I just say, in the 80s, everyone in England would go to Torremolinos for that. And now it's just standard practice.
I mean, actually, do you know what? It's cooled down quite quick in the afternoon, but it's still about 25 degrees.
Well, it does in May. That's why they say don't cast a clout till May's out.
If you say that one more time on this podcast, I swear to God, I'm going to burn your flat down.
I like sayings. It's a really good saying.
You like that saying. You like that saying.
Because it's so true. Because even though it's hot in May, of an evening,
I get it.
It drops.
Yeah, I know it. I understand it.
Look, you've got a red stripe.
You've said it about 26 times.
You've got a red stripe. You're happy. You're hot and frustrated. I'm sick. Should we even bother recording the podcast today?
It's going to be an angry one.
I tell you what. Tell me some happy nature news to cheer up.
What good things did I see on Hampstead Heath today? What did I see? There's loads of St. Mark's flies still knocking around, which are quite nice. I like them.
Yeah, they're cute. As flies go.
As flies go, especially when they're not flying. Strangely, when they're stationary.
Yeah.
They're banging. Yeah, I like them. So there's lots of them today. Also, massive oak galls.
Can I just say, I never thought your weekly nature highlight would be a fly.
Hey, I've got depth.
Oh God. Why do you make it everything sleazy?
What's sleazy about depth?
It's just like you were like, hey, I've got depth.
I've got layers. I'm like Shrek. What else? What did I just say? Oak galls. Massive ones. Size of like golf balls.
I think Ryan is malfunctioning today.
I can't see a problem with anything I've said.
Everything's hot. I'm stressed out. I'm having a beer. Flies. Big balls.
I said galls.
Oh, yeah.
Do not put balls in my mouth.
Very rarely do Ryan and I restart the podcast, but I'm thinking that this time we make an exception.
How far in are we?
Okay, I'm going to bring some sanity back to where we are. My nature highlight...
Go on, Shake!
My highlight this week was I went on a seaweed course on Tuesday, and I learned a lot about seaweed.
Go on.
Well, it's really that was my highlight. I spent a day with a bunch of humans, all learning about. I've just been rifling through my seaweed book just to really land it home in my brain.
Nadia, show me the book, nerds.
And the very brilliant Monica Wilde, who's a forager. She's one of the experts in the field of foraging. Was not only teaching us the seaweeds, but the different ways to eat them.
The different ways to eat them?
Yeah, what they're good for.
When to cook and when to not.
Yeah, like for example, sugar kelp makes amazing crisps. So now I guess you can see why I had such a great day.
Yeah. Is that the only takeaway you've had?
No, I mean,
no?
I actually, sea spaghetti or like thongweed, you can literally eat it like spaghetti. Or weed.
Thongweed? Did you say thong weed?
That's like a more.
Where did they get that name from?
Well, like the sandal flip flop thong.
Oh,
there's a bit of it that branches off into two. Yeah, well, okay.
Sure, that's where that came from.
Well, sometimes when you're swimming naked, it can go up your bum.
And that's where it came from.
And so you could just cook that like spaghetti, or you can just use that like lasagna sheets. And it's all between all of the.
Are they all pasta equivalents? What's the penne equivalent?
Oh gosh. Oh, I don't know. No, I don't think there was a pen.
No.
I'm sorry.
That's stage 2 of the seaweed course.
I only did 1 day course, guys. Just give me a break. But I had a glorious day. Seaweed is amazing, and
That's
actually,
nice.
all the seaweeds can provide like the full vitamin and mineral content that humans
whole
need.
lot? All of it?
Yeah.
Why are we eating anything else?
Because we are idiots, and capitalism.
I really thought there was going to be a deeper answer. You're like, well, we're all twats.
Well, I was chatting about this at the weekend. Like, people buy supplements like Baobab and Maca and all of this. It's like, yeah, these same nutrients and minerals you just pick off the seaweed. But okay, whatever. Go to Holland and Barrett and five quid, whatever. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, it is easier for me to go to Holland and Barrett than it is for me to get to the coast.
Yeah, but that's where reciprocity comes in, and I should be cooking things for you and sending it down, for example.
I mean, I think that's
you should be sending me oat
You should be looking inward on that. Why is that not happening, Shake?
Well, it will from now on because I did a course.
God. Ryan, why does your post stink?
Again. What's she sending you now? Anyway, let's hope that it's good that I said that because my news stories this week are all sea-based.
Are they?
Apart from one.
Mine are Nepalese.
I always worry that you and I, because Ryan and I don't tell each other what we're going to report on. And I always think, oh God, we're going to get the same thing, aren't we? But never has it happened.
No, it's not actually, is it? I start to predict. I mean, mine aren't clickbaity, so I know you ain't going to pick them.
Your sources are different to my sources, basically. We're typing
That's
different
true. And I
things
think
into
that's
Google.
helpful. Yeah, that's healthy. Do you want to go first, or would you like me to go
this
first?
is sea-based. Let's go into sea-based. I'm going to go first.
Segued in.
So these are 2 companion stories that I'm going to read together. Basically, first one, surprise, surprise. There are plans for a huge offshore wind farm off the east coast of Scotland, which is where I was doing my seaweed course. Called Berwick Bank, and it's 40. Well, the size of it is 4 times the size of the entire city of Edinburgh. Now,
wow,
we know was SSE Renewables who are planning to do this, and RSPB Scotland, Marine Conservation Society, National Trust for Scotland, and Scottish Seabird Centre and Scottish Wildlife Trust have all urged Scottish ministers to refuse this offshore wind project. It's one of these complicated ones when we're like, yes, but we need green energy. We know that our seabird populations, are in trouble, not least because of global warming, sea temperatures rising, things like bird flu, but we have not had a full pan-decade understanding of how wind farms affect seabirds, but we know that they do. It's one of these things where it's like we'll look back and be like, we should never have let that go ahead.
We didn't need the reason or the data; it just knew it.
But it's bizarre that seabirds are protected, and we go to large extremes within, governmental departments, whether it's Nature Scot, Natural England, whatever, to protect birds. But then in other departments, it's just like, well, just kill them. There is another proposed one. Offshore wind farm that said there's an estimation that it would kill up to 13% of kittiwake populations, but Berwick Bank and this one together is expected to reduce the same kittiwake population by 81%. So it's just kind of like, we know they're going to kill our wildlife, and we want to keep things like puffins and kittiwakes and gannets. Why are we having to fight and tell the government not to do this?
I think. Sorry, do you mind me cutting in there?
I think it's a perfect time to cut in because I'm going to sneeze.
Just for the nerds listening, I edited it out. I think, and this is pure guesswork,
Hashtag
but
journalism.
it's because the government are largely and science. I think it's because the government are largely misinformed on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think the people that are concerned, no matter how many they are, or how many big, large-scale organisations or NGOs are banging on the door, they have listened to the people that work for them to help them make the right decision. So they might be sat there going, aren't we?
Well, yeah, we've got
great?"
this net zero by 2050 target. And then the company comes along and goes, oh, by the way, we can provide all the electricity for Scotland by building this. And they go, great, we'll meet the
Boom.
target. And it's a rush to the target. Why? The fact is, you just need a body to come along and say, nah, we can't because of these reasons. And then it just needs to go an immediate no.
Well, also, this is the thing. We know our policy and legislation is there's not much room for kind of complexity or nuance. They want a yes or a no, green light, red light kind of thing. So it's like, for example, if they were like, well, we can do some wind farm, but it can't be that big. Maybe we can space it out a bit more. Too complicated, can't do it. So do you know what I mean? So this is how these things end up. And I think a lot of the time when it's reported on, people go like, how? No, you can't. It's like, we've got to understand that annoyingly, this is our system. So we have to get this to stop, which is also annoying for our renewable energy kind of
well, there was
progression,
another story in the news this week about, all by 2027, all new builds will have solar panels on the roof. Seems like less invasive, but I don't know. Let's keep an eye on it. I mean, I think it's going to be a good couple of decades of trying to prove seabird deaths and really get the evidence to be able to this is actually evidence now. I think it's still one of those things where it's just like still at risk, still kind of semi looking at it anyway. But just to go alongside this was just a little story about as the year that David Attenborough turns 99, he's going to be releasing a documentary in May, or a film that's going to be out in cinemas, where he really goes hard. And actually, he describes that overfishing in our oceans is the modern day colonialism at sea. Apparently, he really goes hard on this. As an ecosystem that covers 70% of our planet, bottom trawling and overfishing is just completely destroying ecosystems. So at 99, I think he probably realizes time is short, and how can he make the biggest, after everything he's read and learned in his entire life. I guess one of his biggest, hardest parting messages is we need to stop doing this to our oceans. I think the overfishing is disastrous. He cites that, in the 70s and 80s there was a big mass protest to stop whaling, because we all love whales, don't we? But actually the overfishing, bottom trawling is more significantly damaging to our oceans, but I guess we're less emotionally bonded to fish as we are whales. And so, just the catastrophic wholesale destruction of our oceans because of bottom trawling and overfishing, and I guess his message is success is possible. We've got to stop this. We've got to agree as a global wake up call that we've got to allow our oceans to recover. We can't keep doing this just so we can have a bit of fish.
Hey nerds, sorry to interrupt the show, it's Ryan here. I just wanted to pop on to tell you something quick. We always want Into the Wild to be a free and accessible show, but it does cost to run this thing. So if you ever have any spare pennies or pounds and you want to chuck it towards your favourite nature, wildlife and conservation podcast, then you can do so by going to www.ko-fi.com/intothewildpod. The link is in the write-up of this episode. Anything you're able to give goes straight back into the shows we produce. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Back onto nature news. Well, from the seas to the Nepalese.
Nice.
That's all I had. That's all I had. Went with what I heard.
Yeah.
I just found two. I didn't try to keep them based in Nepal. The two stories I found were, which I thought were quite, serendipitous. Is that the word?
Coincidental. It is
a word. It's not the right one.
We'll go with coincidental.
So this first story is electric vehicles are helping Nepal clean up its deadly air, which I think is the key word in that headline there. In short, basically, Nepal now imports more electric vehicles than gas-powered motor ones, which is pretty cool and amazing. A huge leap forward from just a few years ago, because it's basically thanks to tax breaks, cheaper electricity, and new financing options for people. So Kathmandu's deadly air pollution caused in large by vehicle emissions contributes to nearly a fifth of the country's deaths.
What?
Can you believe? I know, right? A fifth of the country's deaths is down to the air pollution.
How bad is it compared to ours?
I I haven't got that answer for you,
lot.
but I don't think
bad.
a fifth of the UK's death or England's deaths are based on that. So, and experts say reducing fine particles could add over 2 years to the average lifespan to Kathmandu, which is, I just was incredibly surprised by those kind of statistics. And they said, while small electric vehicles are booming, electric buses and trucks are slower to take off. And that's basically due to high costs, weak infrastructure already, and basically, in short, a chaotic public transport system. Though some co-ops and individuals are trying to change that kind of thing. So David Silsland from the World Bank Country Director for Nepal, Maldives and Sri Lanka said that motorists switching to electric vehicles is an important part of getting towards cleaner skies and improved health. So we hear a lot about electric vehicles, and they kind of, it's a very new, well, I guess, form of technology and engineering, and there are some issues with them in terms of like production and how they're being run and like keeping them going compared to petrol or fuel cars. But at the same time, when we're looking at like places like this, cleaning air, it's kind of no brainer really.
Yeah. I mean, short of like rejigging our system to not having to be travelling around so much and more public transport, I do find all of that really shocking in terms of statistics.
And I think I don't think Kathmandu is going to be unique for that. I think there's going to be a few places around the world where that kind of pollution is really causing heavily extreme kind of health impacts.
I would imagine that in London, for example, it is vastly underreported.
Exactly. I mean, there are places actually saying that as a Londoner. There's places when I run, I used to, I don't so much now, but I used to wear like a face mask because afterwards my the inside of my nose would be rather black.
Who can afford to drive around London?
I honestly don't even. I can't even believe people like buy houses here. But so that was the first story about Nepal. Just a nice little one.
Okay, second
the
Nepalese
second
story.
we're staying in Nepal, and this is that Nepal has announced its snow leopard population after first of its kind assessment. So it's been a long time coming, this, for Nepal. I know a lot of work has gone on this, and it's been a real holistic approach with loads of people coming together because, as you can imagine, counting and surveying, and it's not really a survey,
a very
elusive cat is not an easy thing to do, especially that lives in terrain that's also not easy to move around. So Nepal has released its first consolidated national estimate of snow leopards, placing the population at 397 individuals after synthesizing multiple studies conducted between 2015 and 2024. So despite covering just 2% of global snow leopard habitat, Nepal hosts nearly 10% of the global population, making it the fourth largest population of the species. The estimate contributes to the population assessment of world snow leopards, PWAS, a global initiative aiming for standardized and robust population assessments across 12 snow leopard range countries. So while the estimate is like a milestone, it's based on just 43% of Nepal's potential snow leopard habitat, with key areas like, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce these two places, but areas like Dopatan and Apunampa still under surveyed in the country. So it's really, this story is kind of a real big coming together of different organizations, because like I said, it's not as easy as just going out there and then counting 1, 2, 3. So it's heavily using data, finding camera traps as well,
I was going to say camera traps,
DNA, and all things, these different ways that we kind of search for species. It's not a helicopter going around going, there's one, and it's not just using things like camera traps as well. So there's a really cross-wire approach here from different organisations. So Kamal Thampa, a snow leopard researcher on the government-appointed committee for this kind of work, said, instead of a single large survey, we had to synthesise findings from camera traps, genetic analysis and habitat models, each done in different regions and years. So, yeah, like I said, just a range of different approaches to try and figure out how kind of, I don't know, important the habitat of Nepal actually is. And for it to only, 2% of the country holding 10% of the global population.
I actually didn't realise their range was so... Well, maybe... I don't know how many countries they span, but...
Yeah, I know. It's mad. They do kind of... I guess that mountain range, knows no lines. And neither do the leopards. So they are going to move...
They're quite specialised.
Exactly. And this was all conducted by individual researchers and officials from government, from the National Trust for Nature and Conservation, the TNC, WWF, Third Pole Conservancy, the Himalayan Wolves Project, Tribhuvan University, Nepal Engineering College, and ZSL. So do you know what I mean? There's places all over the range of different countries working together here to try and find out.
So it's really interesting, actually, that you mention it, because I'm thinking about why is it that they make me feel quite enchanted, because they're beautiful cats. And I think it was a David Attenborough documentary where I first was introduced to snow leopards, because it took them so long. I remember there was a guy, that one of the filmmakers, they were out there for weeks because they're so elusive and so hard to film. And it just, makes you realise that my interest in caring for them is because of a documentary.
Yeah, I know. And I think a lot of the times
does have reach, doesn't
yeah, I
it?
think especially our generation, I mean, we look at David Attenborough that's been on our screens for years, but I think our generation specifically, where TV was a lot more accessible, and those shows became a lot more accessible. I think a lot of our generation...
We should get him on.
Yeah, good point, actually. Yeah, I'll drop him a WhatsApp. You kind of... I think our generation growing up so able to watch that kind of stuff, which is kind of goes hand in hand as to why we just really wanted to go to these places and also work with these species as well. And we know that from a lot of our own native wildlife, A, not being here, and B, also not being shown a lot on TV. So, all these things are quite evident to why. But no, I agree. My nan used to love snow leopards. I remember having pictures of them in the house and stuff, just paintings of them and stuff like that. And she really did like them. But it's amazing. I know snow leopards are one cat that population is on the rise as well, and that's down to a lot of investment into community-based conservation.
I wonder as well, though, they live in a habitat that's not easily developed.
No.
They occupy a place without humans, and I wonder if that's why they're doing
well. I think I'm going to say this very loosely just in case the country is incorrect, but I know there's a country, and I think it's Kazakhstan, where snow leopard populations really increased, and basically down to the conservancy model like we've seen in Namibia, where communities had ownership and not only had the ownership over it, but were able to directly benefit from any tourism, including hunting tourism of mountain goat, for that money to go back in, and them to rely less on kind of maybe activities that were damaging to the species themselves.
I mean, they are one of those species that people in the West want to go see, and if there's a country that's got their shit together to make tourism basically a guaranteed view of seeing one,
why would you not? So
amazing. Well, that's it, from protecting our seas to Nepalese animals. We did all of that in a terrible mood. I'm ill.
I know, nerds, I've got to say, I'm really ill, and I'm pretty sure I'm borderline heat stroke today, and Nadia's sick. So God bless you for staying with us.
Thank you for sticking with us. I feel like I never even got to tell you my clickbait news.
How long we got?
1 minute.
Really quickly.
This is a story about tardigrades getting the world's tiniest tattoo. That's all I'm going to tell you. You can Google it and you can be astounded by the image that you're going to see. Tardigrades, also known as the water bear, tiny, tiny microscopic creature, can survive in space. They are largely indestructible, and when frozen, they can be tattooed by a tiny lasery type thing. And I thought it was very cute, and also not very nice to the tardigrade. But I guess to his friends, he's like,
yeah, love and hat on his knuckles.
The world's smallest tattoo. Check it out.
So the link of that story will be in the write-up for this episode, nerds, as is all the stories Nadia and I have spoken about on today's show. Last Tuesday, because Monday was a bank holiday, the final instalment of Into the Wild Journey Back to Namibia came out, which was looking at community living and the climate crisis impact on community living in Namibia. It is the final installment. There's a really good bit of news in that final episode, so please go back and listen to it. It's been an amazing series, and something Nadia and I will probably do a bit of a half an hour debrief of a little bonus episode one day to talk about. Social media, you know where to follow us by now. I don't need to say this every time. We're on all the socials. Into the Wild Pod, give us a search and we're on there. If you've got any spare change and you want to chuck it towards your favourite nature and conservation podcast, you know what to do. We're always so thankful, and it goes right back into the show. And whatever platform you're listening on, if you're able to give us a review, please do. If not, feel free to give us a share on socials, or give us a DM and say hello for a chat, or drop us an email. whichever you'd like to do. But until next time, look after yourself. I'm going to go cool down, and Nadia's going to have a lem sip.
Have a lem sip. Bye.